Traders and investors, welcome. Thank you very much. I'm recording this on the weekend, but it's for the week commencing Monday, the 31st of March. We're almost 25% of the way through the year. Can you freaking believe it? Anyway, here we go. So first of all, curious to see what happens here with the RBA interest rate. Not really expecting much change there. CPI for Europe, very curious to see how that goes as well. Just curious to see if we're going to start to see the impact of the tariffs and just general isolationism that's kind of approach that's coming out of isolationist approach that's coming out of the US. Then, of course, I think it's going to be very interesting to see all of the US news here. I want to see what happens with this stuff at the moment. But of course, don't forget the big kahuna on Friday will be unemployment rate, but non-farm payroll. So a lot of volatility this week. But I have to say the last couple of weeks, the markets have been garbage for the most part. Gold being the only one that really bothered to get off the couch and do anything. But definitely I'm going to be keeping an eye on this. Very curious to see if there's going to be any impact from the current administration to the markets. Any surprises, any shocks, anything good or bad, we'll see. That being said, let's go to the charts. Starting off with the VIX, again, we can see this VIX starting to climb a little bit. So let's just do that. There we go. Looking at it on a weekly here, you can see a little bit of a green candle here. It's a little bit higher for sure. Normally we see it come back down to the bottom of the range. Now we've got a bit of a potential for a higher low. And so it makes sense. We're starting to see a little bit of a creep to the upside here. So it makes sense. I would expect this to continue to move a little bit higher this week. Not at any kind of DEFCON 5 levels just yet, but certainly looks as though it's got that potential to just go a little bit higher. Right, let's have a look at the dollar index. So dollar index, interesting to me. Really, the weekly is kind of offering some clues here. The market hasn't gone anywhere. We closed, failing to close above that 104 level, closing below the low there. If we break the low of this, I would expect that dollar to continue to weaken, work its way back within the range. Obviously, if it does manage to break above the highs before breaking the low, then it will continue to strengthen there. But there's a lot of signs hinting at the potential for a weaker US dollar this week. Euro's come back down to a key level of support. We've also got a bit of a bullish candle here above that weekly 50 period moving average. The MACD is starting to cross over a little bit more bullish here again. This just hinting at, especially if we break the high here, I don't know what's wrong with me. I would expect here to see that dollar continue to weaken and euro climb. GBP USD as well. Going sideways here for the last 3 weeks, but also here really reluctant to give up some ground. And so also, although the markets haven't done anything, so if you've been trading during this period, which is almost 3 weeks, depending on which chart you're looking at, but it's between a week and a half and 3 weeks, we've just seen a lot of just a lack of commitment or follow through from the markets. But at the same time, not really seeing that dollar gaining back any ground. And that's why I say I think this week we could see it continue to weaken. I think NFP could be the ultimate decider on that, or any of the jobs related news coming out. What's wrong with me? Newses. Excuse me. I promise you I'm sober. Okay, so dollar yen here as well. This is effective here, double top. We've come back, tested resistance. We're back up here testing it again. Strong bearish rejection candle over there. A little bit of a weekly rejection on that side. So again, a break of the low here to me would signal further downside. Dollar Sussy, also very similar to that, producing a bit of an inside bearish candle. Failing over here, starting to look as though it's rolling over, and the momentum still looks bearish here. So it makes sense to me if we break through this little support level here at 0.8800, we would continue down towards these lows. Dollar CAD, very interesting to me. It's forming a bearish sort of descending triangle over here at the moment. That momentum is bearish. So again, we could see a break below these lows, and then we would see an acceleration to the downside. So all of these have that potential for the weaker dollar within them this week. Gold, just on fire at the moment. I just want you to take note, not just of that, the scale of the monthly candle so far, quite big. One of the biggest ones we've had in a very, very long time, certainly in a couple of years. And this could potentially mean that we're starting to see a bit of a crowd volume candle, and therefore we could start to slow down after that. But that weekly candle here as well, closing right at the highs, the daily closing at the highs. This is super, super bullish. Yes, we have this bearish divergence, and at some point there will be a reckoning for it. But right now, gold is, if anything else, is picking up pace to the upside. So again, I'm sort of bullish on that for now, but I am guessing that somewhere in this region, in fact, I'm happy to mark it somewhere in about this region here. I anticipate that it's going to start to stumble. But yep, there we go. Otherwise, it is just so strong at the moment. Silver also showing some potential upside there. Now, overall, I'm still bearish on crude oil. It's still working its way within this wedge. Still looks relatively bearish. And so we'll see this week if we continue to move higher. But very tricky at this point in time because it's just ping-ponging between levels. And there are no real clear trends. It's at a key resistance level here. We could see it potentially just continue down this week. Now, moving on to the global market. So again, you know, Friday closed relatively almost very much down, right down near the lows, almost selling right into the close of the session and clearly rejecting this level of support as and finding resistance there. So it makes sense to me if we break the low of this weekly candle, we would see further downsides here heading back down towards 41,000. Looking at the S&P as well, also a bearish engulfing candle and expecting same thing again. If we break the low of this, it's rejecting the highs, it's sitting underneath. In fact, it's the weeklies that are telling me the most here. We've got them sitting underneath that 50-period moving average, also finding strong resistance here and a strong bearish engulfing candle. So if we break the low here, it makes so much sense that we would just continue down. But for now, I'm going to take it down to a support level at a time, not expect it to necessarily fall off a cliff. Let's just see how that goes. I'm not going to jump the gun on this. Let's just play it as it lies. NASDAQ as well, very similar, very strong bearish engulfing candle below that 50-period moving average. All of this hinting at further downside this coming week. Russell 2000, same thing again, bearish engulfing candle, well back within this range. Further downside, much easier to predict with something like this because it's within this range anyway. The FTSE actually coping really well. When I look at the FTSE 100 here, I'm very happy with what I see here, considering how bearish the US markets have been. For the market to still be stuck below resistance but not really be falling off a cliff, guys, is somewhat unique in my 16 years of doing this. I've not really seen that before. The DAX letting off some of that steam, but still stuck within the last 6-7 weeks in the same place, hasn't really gone anywhere. Very, very choppy and obviously very volatile at the moment. The monthly telling us, just showing us how overextended it is, and it could really do with a sell-off down towards 20,000. But the difference is this market again right now incredibly bullish. So what I mean by that is it's standing its ground, really reluctant to give up and let off some of that buying pressure, give up some of that ground. Okay, then we have got Bitcoin. So Bitcoin also underneath the 10 and 20, producing a bit of a bearish candle here again. Not just having given up all the ground I made last week, the week before last, this last week. And again, I think further downside if we break the low here, back down towards these lows. But for now, I'm seeing shorter term moves. If we get some big moves, that's a possibility, of course, but I'm expecting smaller moves for now. And of course, Ethereum continuing to break much down. It's outside the range, and also it looks very much as though it's rejected that with a bearish engulfing candle. So I think further downside makes a lot more sense over here as well. Let's move on to the Mag 7. So we'll have a look at Apple. Apple again also right below that 50-period moving average. Okay, right below that 50-period moving average. I expect this to continue down. Let's have a quick look. Where is my watch list? Here we go. Microsoft as well. Very strong bearish engulfing below that level of support. Again, breaking that low, I would expect us to head down to the next level of support. Let's have a look at Amazon. So Amazon over here. As I was saying before with these drawings over here, just saying that we're on a good area for it to potentially find support, but this is also now showing the potential for further downside. So before in September, we had a really nice pullback into this area, got rid of a lot of buying pressure. This was a great setup for that move. Now, quite a bit of pressure again under that 50-period moving average, and again, we could see a move down towards these big next support levels. Alphabet, Google, okay, very strong rejection of that level of support. Okay, finding resistance there. So I do think we're going to see bigger moves down towards the downside here. So all of these showing that weakness, just confirming it. Meta, which is obviously finally coming back within its moving averages on the monthly here. That's what it's been needing to do for a while. I still think further downside is on the table here, especially if everything else is going to be doing that. But just down towards these lows. Let's see how it responds when it gets to that 50-period moving average. NVIDIA. So NVIDIA's kind of special in its own way. It's still within, it's got a lot of, buying support below these levels. And looking at that weekly, yes, it's come back up, attempted to get back up above that, produced a lower high. It's underneath the 50-period moving average at a resistance level. So again, if we break these lows, I think we're going to see further downside here. So all of it hinting at that. Look how just bearish that MACD is, full on just entering bear territory now. So all just pointing again at possible follow through and just further downside. Tesla as well. Let's have a look at this. So Tesla on the weekly, I beg your pardon. Tesla on the weekly, again, that rejection, wick failing to get back up above that level. And if we break this low, absolutely, I would say it's going to head down to test this level 222. I'm curious to see if it's going to try and go further and go towards that 200 level. And again, here starting to enter negative territory with the MACD. That's just an additional bearish sentiment signal. But you can see we haven't been there for a while. So yes, I would not be surprised to see this head further down. Netflix. So Netflix is deviating from its path here. Kind of it had nice bullish recovery here and another bullish recovery here. Looked like it was kind of going to be doing okay compared to the rest. Now battling a little bit. We could very well see a bit of a head and shoulders forming here. So keeping an eye on this. If we break through this, then obviously we're going to see this move down towards that 700, 690 level. And that is it from me this week, guys. So very interesting potential there for a weaker US dollar. So we could see, I hope so, some good moves on euro, dollar, GBP, dollar yen down, dollar Swissy down, even dollar CAD ideally, gold. Let's just see how much further that can keep pushing its way up. The US indices could have further downside. So there could be some good opportunities for sensible day traders. And for investors, we could be approaching a really good buying opportunity in the coming months when that US lets off a lot of its buying pressure. So on that note, I'm going to leave you with that. Listen, have a fantastic week. Trade carefully and cautiously, and I'll speak to you soon.